Hello and welcome to Autology, the weekly podcast that brings you the latest on automotive technology. This week's episode is called Will Revenue Ambition from Connected Car Data Surpass the Cars Themselves? And you're here with me, Anna Büttner, Principal Analyst, and Fanny Lee, Principal Analyst and Lead for the Connected Car Research Area, alongside Asim Upal, Senior Analyst for the Connected Car domain here at S&P Global Mobility. Hello to you both, and thank you for joining this week's episode of Autology.
Hey,
Hello,
hi everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So before we dive into this interesting topic, could you tell me and the audience what the approximate size of the connected vehicle market, and then more specifically, the market size of automotive over-the-air updates is to kind of set the stage? Fanny, maybe you can start us off.
Yeah, sure. For connected car vehicle market size in 2021, globally, there are 320 million connected vehicles in operation. And this number is expected to grow to totally nearly 700 million vehicles by 2028.
And Fanny touched upon the right data points. And if you talk about over-the-air update capability, so out of 327 million vehicles that are connected in 2021, we have approximate 78 million vehicles that have over-the-air update capability, right? And if we look forward by 2028, out of 697 million vehicles, we have approx 465 million vehicles that are expected to have over-the-air update capability. So this shows what the amount of interest that automakers have in terms of providing software updates and also the consumer perception or the demand across the regions.
And for a service point of view, on-demand mobility service and data-driven services, this could create up to 1.5 trillion US dollars.
Yeah, and as the podcast topic suggests, but still the vehicle revenue will still be a lot more. So as per the data points that we have, we expect around $4 trillion of revenue that will be generated out of just the vehicle sales by 2030. And if we take into account the connected services revenue or data-driven revenue that Fanny said, it is still expected to grow at a huge pace, but still it is not expected to bypass the vehicle sales revenue that comes from the vehicle hardware.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So definitely a big market potential. And yeah, you touched on digital service subscription. Do OEMs have a long-term plan for this? And can you name some leaders in this area? Basically, which OEMs are ahead of the curve, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. And there are a few OEM announcements last year. I can take some examples. For Stellantis Group, they have 12 million monetized connected vehicles globally. And by 2030, it plans to reach 34 million vehicles and approximately 20 billion euros software and connected service annual revenue target. So these are generated from some key pillars. First pillar is service and subscription, such as satellite radio subscription and connect navigation. And the second pillar is feature on demand, such as performance upgrade in vehicle entertainment, drive assist features. And the third pillar is data as a service and the fleet management services. And for this, General Motor is leader in the market. So with very high revenue potential, so General Motors said it expects in-car subscription service generate nearly 2 billion US dollar in revenue 2021, and the target to reach 20 to 25 billion US dollar service revenue by 2030. So with 6 billion of US dollar come from OnStar Insurance and other come from digital products such as navigation and map, OnStar Connect service, and Super Cruise. So currently, GM has 16 million vehicles on the road in US and Canada. About a quarter of vehicle owners, more than 4 million owners, pay for subscription service today. And from profitability, It's more than 70 global EBIT margin. And if we look at consumer electronic industry, Apple also delivered record-breaking second quarter service revenue, up 17% year over year, and reach 19.8 billion US dollar, 5 times service revenue compared to 2013. I think in the future, more automakers will provide diverse digital software and service offerings for their customers.
Very good. So you touched on future, but what about advanced connected cars that are being manufactured today? Do OEMs have long-term plans for these vehicles to drive the market for connected services? Asi, maybe you can shed some light here.
Yeah, so Fanny touched upon some really interesting use cases. And if we take into account why connected services market is evolving, the number one point that is factoring into this is the vehicles that are being manufactured right now, right? If we take into account in the past decade, people mainly used to buy a vehicle and there were no connected services or subscription model that people could subscribe to. But with the advent of e-mobility, autonomous driving, new vehicle platforms, upcoming R&D investments that automakers are diving into, we are seeing a lot of futuristic use cases that are coming into the market. You have some new vehicles that were recently launched in the form of BMW iX, Mercedes EQX. Some Chinese automakers have come with some amazing, interesting vehicles that have futuristic interiors, right? You have the Hummer EV that was launched by GM. And in some markets, it is forecasted that L3 autonomy will also go live in the market as well. So all these use cases backed up by the automakers' investment and also consumer demand in some regions are driving the market for connected services. And in terms of long-term plan you asked about, I personally feel that automakers have a huge interest in focusing or maybe generating some more amount of revenue and also investing a huge amount of dollars into this particular market, right? Because whenever they have new vehicle hardware that are into market and which have innovative features, that are going to be one of the key factors after which they can bring to the market some new innovative features. We have seen some examples from Porsche, Taycan, from BMW, where they have a huge lot of connected services. Similarly, for Mercedes as well. Some connected services are going to get some pushback from the consumers, but still a lot of them will be adopted, especially the software-based connected services and subscription models are certainly going to be adopted by the consumers. And also, if you see why automakers are investing into futuristic hardware and innovative models, it's because without the relevant hardware in the vehicle, there is no market for connected services. We have the example from Tesla, where they have full self-driving package, right? All their vehicles already have the hardware built into the vehicle, so that afterwards consumers can decide whether to pay monthly or an yearly or a one-time revenue to enable those features or not. If similarly, if a vehicle does not have the hardware, then that option for the consumer is limited and they can no longer subscribe to a particular service.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So hardware definitely still matters. We talked quite a bit now about services, but what about packaging and bundling? How are these services packaged, and what is the price point of some of these service packages? And do you anticipate this to change in the future? And in other words, really, do OEMs have a good handle, in your opinion, on how to sell these connected services to vehicle owners?
Yeah, sure, I can take this one. Yes, most OEM today offer diverse connect service packages. So there are different category of service. In general, there are safety and security related service, such as eCall, BCall, stolen vehicle tracking. There are convenience service, such as remote control, vehicle status monitoring, vehicle location, etc. And there are maintenance service, such as on-demand diagnostic, remote diagnostic, vehicle health report, and navigation service, such as online dynamic routing, real-time traffic, and electric vehicle dedicated service, such as remote charge and stop, EV route planner, fast charging, etc. And most importantly, there are vehicle entertainment service as well, such as online music, video streaming, gaming in the future, and more, for example, premium service such as concierge services. So General Motors currently offer 4 Connect service package. The price vary from $20 to $50 per month, and 4 standalone service per month, and 1 functional software paid package, Super Cruise, in US market. And Super Cruise package costs about $25. And if we look at Tesla, Tesla has the premium connectivity package. So with that package, you can access to all the connectivity features over cellular network. So it's a monthly subscription, $9.99. And this includes additional service such as live traffic visualization, Sentry mode, satellite view maps, video streaming, karaoke, music streaming, and internet browser. And sure, Tesla is the leader in the OTA update. So it performs OTA update with higher update frequency compared to industry average. So it continuously release new features and functional improvement to their customer. And also the company has introduced the enhanced autopilot and the full self-driving capability. So the price vary from $6,000 in 2019 to $12,000 in 2022. So it depends on its newly released new features and the production software maturity, and it increased the price. And in 2020, Tesla also introduced the monthly plan. So with owners with the basic autopilot package, you can pay additional $199 per month to upgrade to FSD capability. And for other EV startup in China, for new flagship model ET7, they offer monthly subscription about $100 for new autonomous driving NAD subscription. So NAD package includes features such as navigation on pilot, remote parking, smart summon for urban and highway scenarios. And another EV startup, Xpeng has the 3.0 X-Pilot package. So this include additional features except navigation guided pilot. It also includes memory parking. So these navigation guided pilot are available for high definition map coverage area. So you can purchase one time with $3,000. So the package take rate is quite high in China. It's about 20 to 25%. And also other OEM offer different software package, including comfort package, like front and rear seat heating, steering wheel heating package. And there are also other OEM who offer the lighting package, such as adaptive high beam package and matrix lighting package. So more OEM will offer a diverse software or service package in the future, and it's not only related to safety and security, but also vehicle performance upgrades, connected camera in vehicle app, and audio enhancement, such as spatial audio experience, a lot of personalization here. So I believe the market potential is great. And when we conduct research, we found some OEM changed the package offerings and pricing over time. So it depends on the pricing strategy, customer perceived value, digital product and payment experience, and many others. So many OEM make trials in 1 or 2 countries firstly, then expand the digital business to other markets.
So certainly a very dynamic market still where things are fluid and changing when it comes to the packages, but also price points and so forth. And it seems OEMs are trying to listen to what customers want. What are important factors then to be considered when it comes to these OEM offerings, specifically when it comes to connected services? Recently, there really has been a lot of talk in the market about automakers offering services just to enable vehicle hardware capabilities and add functionality that was disabled before. Maybe Asim, a question for you. What is
Yeah.
your take on this?
So when we hear about the subscription services, my first take is that I think the marketing or the communication from the automakers needs to be correct. When they talk about subscription services, the first idea they market is or talk about the consumer is that it's a subscription model and a lot of software features or services will be enabled. But in reality, what consumers get is hardware enabled features, right? So I think when consumers see that my vehicle already has a relevant hardware, but I have to pay just to enable it, I think that is an ill-conceived idea, because in the end, what really happens is the dealers and the employees directly suffer the brunt of the angry customers. Like, and we have seen in the past some of the world biggest automakers like Toyota, where they said that in order to remote access your car via a key, you have to pay for a service, right? And similarly, Volkswagen, General Motors, as rightly Fanny said, they have a lot of such packages where consumers are just paying for enabling a hardware for, and they have already paid for that hardware when they bought the vehicle, right? So that is something that is not well taken by the consumers. In the past, we have seen an example where BMW started charging for Apple CarPlay in some regions, right? Whereas Apple CarPlay is provided free of cost and in a lot of automakers and across the world, right? Similarly, recently we have seen some negative feedback about the news that BMW is planning to charge for heated seats, and that if you just Google it online, you're going to see a lot of negative news about that particular model, right? And I personally feel that taking into account the feedback, BMW will push back on this strategy as well. Function on demand is good, but there should be a thin line between a software enabled features and a dedicated hardware enabled features, right? And also, when you a lot of times people or the subscription models are being compared as to how it went or generated revenue in the mobile phone industry. Again, cars are not smartphone, right? A temporary functionality upgrade might work and it might be immensely profitable on smartphones. But that's not the case with vehicles, right? Vehicles are too expensive and too complex for automakers to essentially tell consumers that, listen, we already had put a particular hardware in your vehicle, you just have to pay to turn it on and give us more money. So that is something that does not work. So I think communication has to be right in terms of what exactly you are paying for. And also, since now we are at a very initial phase of this subscription-based models in the automotive industry, I also think that a lot of automakers are just testing out the consumer patterns across different countries. They want to understand what is the limit to which they can stretch to, right? And especially in the more mature markets like Europe and North America. So, and if they see that a particular use case is not going to work, they are going to stop providing those particular services. And in basis that consumer data, they are going to evolve their business model and come up with something very innovative so that people also feel that it makes sense and they can subscribe to depending upon their use and requirement.
Got it. Yeah, thank you for walking us through that. Okay, so on that note, then can we end our discussion by each of you sharing your final thoughts and maybe your most intriguing insight when it comes to the future of connected services?
Yes, for the future, for high-level estimation, for a leading global automaker in digitalization, by 2030, connect service and software service revenue can increase up to 10% of OEM total revenue. And if we add autonomous mobility service, and the revenue opportunity can up to 30 to 40%. And we can see a huge potential here. And besides connect service and the functional paid update, we talk a lot today. But there are also other business models, such as data as a service, fleet management, remote diagnostic, user-based insurance, and many others. So in the very long term, when mobility as a service becomes standard, subscription service may surpass the vehicle sales revenue.
Yeah, and if I talk about myself, I think that this is certainly a very interesting market and certainly a lot of improvements. And maybe in the next decade, we are going to see a huge amount of revenue that will be generated from subscription services. But still, vehicle sales will still surpass the revenue from the subscription services because vehicle hardware is the key that will drive the subscription-based model, right? And certainly, as I touched upon previously, without a satisfactory or relevant hardware, subscription-based services are not going to evolve much. And also touching upon the key point about the communication, I think automakers need to listen to the consumers in terms of what is the recipe for success, and they should not explore the recipe for the consumer resentment, right? Or maybe if not in the next 1 decade, but let's say in the next 2 decades, subscription-based services may surpass the vehicle revenue if mobility as a service, where people are not buying vehicles, but they are just maybe having vehicles depending upon their driving patterns, and they can just subscribe to a vehicle as well. And or maybe then consumer preferences are tied to a particular user ID where they just log into a different vehicle, and depending upon their ID parameters and preferences, their vehicle can automatically log into particular services. So in that case, subscription-based revenue can generate a lot of revenue, but I think that will be a thing of next 2 decades, not 1 decade. But going forward, it will certainly be very interesting to see how automakers evolve and also how consumers perceive this market.
Great, thank you. Certainly a topic that we will continue to pay a lot of attention to. And unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. A big thank you to you both for joining Atology.
We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly very interesting topics. Looking forward to some interesting announcements from the automaker as well.
And thank you to all you listeners for tuning in as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode at our atology@ihsmarket.com email. And you can find out much more at autotechinsight.ihsmarket.com. Don't forget to hit all the subscribe, follow, and like buttons to stay on track with the latest Atology podcast. And we look forward to you joining us again for the next episode. Bye for now.